Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be talking about another comparison today between the Samsung Galaxy S20 and another set of phones that honestly should have really no business comparing to a phone like the Galaxy S20. Between both, you can see that obviously the Galaxy A50 is supposed to be the budget lineup of phones, and it's not necessarily supposed to, be compared right to the Galaxy S20, but since so many people own the Samsung Galaxy A50, I think it'd be kind of cool to see what the main differences are and pretty much what might you be lacking if you get an A50 versus the S20, or maybe even vice versa. If you're picking up the $1,000 Samsung Galaxy S20, what are you missing if you go get an A50? You might be missing some things, who knows? Now, obviously between both, the Samsung Galaxy S20 is the more expensive phone. It costs $1,000 right now, and since it's only been out for like 2 weeks, the price has not depreciated at all since then. It's still costing that about $1,000 even in the used market. So for sure, if you have all the money in the world, it's definitely a really good phone, but it might not be the really good deal, whereas on the Samsung Galaxy A50, when it came out, I think it was like $300 something, like it was super cheap for, compared to $1,000 flagship. But when you look at it, especially now on Amazon, this thing costs like $200 to buy, and for a phone that's getting One UI 2, that's probably going to be on Android 10 sooner than later, that's not a bad deal at all to pay for a phone like that, and it's not like you're paying for like the cheapest phone here. The A10 is really the cheapest Samsung phone at the moment. The A50 is one of the more higher end budget phones that Samsung makes, which is really cool, and to get it for $200, I know the A51 is out now, but $200 is still a pretty decent deal to pay for a phone like that. So I will tell you, if you're in the middle of these two, you don't want to spend the $200, you don't want to spend the $1,000, you want to get something in between, the Samsung Galaxy S10 is also a very good deal you can get on Amazon for like less than $500. That is honestly one of the best deals I've seen for a phone out. So if you want to pick up either three of those phones, the S20, S10, or A50, all those phones will be linked down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. But looking on the front of both phones, the Samsung Galaxy A50 has a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display. It is a 1080p display, and honestly, for a budget phone, the panel is actually not bad at all, and especially when you look at a phone like this, just think about it. You have that Infinity U display or whatever it's called. You have a little bit of bezel on the bottom, which isn't even that big of a deal for a lot of people, but here's the thing. Just a couple years ago, when you look at a phone like the Samsung Galaxy S7 or S7 Edge or whatever the case is, those phones still had a ton of bezel on it. Even if you look at a phone like the Note 9, that phone looks really good, but even that phone technically had a lot of bezel on it compared to this thing. And when you look at them side by side, you would probably say the A50 looks more futuristic and looks better, even though that's not necessarily the case. Even though the Note 9 is probably the better phone in my opinion, you've probably a little bit more capability on that phone, and the screen is better, but this phone just looks better, and that's something that you cannot deny the fact of Samsung for doing this. They did such a great job with the A50. The panel is pretty decent, it's 1080p. It's not like one of the best panels I've ever seen, even on a budget phone, but it's definitely okay, and it gets the job done for sure. So the panel on the A50 is definitely better than what I've thought, especially for like a $200 phone that's almost brand new. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20, we have a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. This one is 1440p, and honestly, there's no competition here. Obviously the S20 has the better display. It might be a little bit smaller when it comes down to the actual, the size and everything, but it's a really good panel. You have a little bit of bezel on the top and bottom, but you have that Infinity O display, which is right in the center, and it really evened things out. With the S10, it was in the corner. With this one, it's in the center, and it looks really nice. I cannot deny Samsung for making a really good looking phone with the Samsung Galaxy S20. Now, comparing both of them side by side, obviously I think the S20 is the way better one in terms of the way they look, but also in terms of the features. The Samsung Galaxy S20 has that really cool feature of being able to do 120Hz refresh rate on that display, which a lot of phones in the market don't even have that. At 90Hz, the OnePlus 7 Pro and the 7T Pro and all those have that 90Hz capability, but this is one of the first ones, besides I think that Asus ROG phone, that can do 120Hz on that OLED display. And for them to bring it out on a massive scale means that most other phone manufacturers are going to start doing it too, so they're probably going to see it this year. That's an awesome feature for the Samsung Galaxy S20, and I have a lot of respect for them doing that. So in terms of them, the S20 definitely wins in terms of the panel. Both have USB Type-C on the bottom, on the back, triple camera setups, and they both have wireless charging and all that stuff, but the Samsung Galaxy S20 has that ability of doing reverse wireless charging, and that's a really cool thing that the phone supports. Not a lot of phones have that, but we have that capability on the Samsung Galaxy S20. Both phones technically support support the fingerprint sensor in the display, but I still think the S20s might be a little bit better, even though they're both about the same. One doesn't blow the other one out of the water, but that is something that I saw kind of when I was testing them. Both have micro SD card slot support, and really when it comes down to it, that's really pretty much it. Of course the A50 for some reason, and I've changed my accent so much, the A50 doesn't have any IP certification as far as I know, whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20 we have IP68 dust and water resistance, so we can go up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. That's a really cool thing that we have the capability of doing on the Samsung Galaxy S20 where we don't have it on the A50. And in terms of that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. Now hitting on the software updates, okay, this is where things get a little confusing. So with the Samsung Galaxy A series, it wasn't necessarily like the newest Samsung series phones that they added, but it was kind of the first time they actually pushed a huge initiative for their budget phones in a while, even though they've had them for a long time. So it started off with Android Pie on One UI, and I'm not really too sure how much further it's going to go. And what I mean by that is I'm not really too sure how far it's going to go. It could be getting Android 11, it could be matching the same software updates after the Samsung Galaxy S10, but I'm not really too sure. I don't really know why they would do that, because wouldn't they want to make it last even less so then more people are inclined to buy the newer ones? I don't know. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20, it's starting off with One UI 2 on Android 10, and it's going to be getting Android 11 and Android 12, and most likely it's going to stop there unless Samsung, as I've said before, pushes the initiative of supporting their phones for a longer period of time. I think it's time that Samsung does that. I think it's weird that they still don't do that, but it would be very important and integral to the phone lifecycle support if they go and support their older phones for longer. Even though the Samsung Galaxy A50 is getting Android 10 on One UI 2, it's already supported, I don't know if it's going to be getting the next version of Android, and that's really sad to say. This phone literally just came out and we're already deciding like whether it's going to be lasting another version or not. So it's kind of sad. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it, but that is my take on the software updates. The S20 is definitely going to outlast the A50 in my opinion. Now in terms of the performance, the Samsung Galaxy A50 has the Exynos 9610 chipset, an octa-core CPU, and there's a couple different models of this phone. The bottom models have 4GB of RAM, but there is a top tier model, two of them with 6GB of RAM, but I have the base model 4GB of RAM option, where the Samsung Galaxy S20 has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, an octa-core CPU, and Adreno 650 GPU. There's only one model of the S20 with 12GB of RAM. What I can tell you about the performance of both these phones is, first of all, I want to give credit to the A50. It did a pretty decent job overall when I was using it. I still own it, and whenever I do anything with it, it does a good job for a phone that is publicly available. You can get it out Walmart or Best Buy for a pretty cheap price. I have a lot of respect for Samsung for pushing that phone out. Like I said before, they put a lot into this phone, and I think for the performance that you're getting from it, I think it's pretty good for the price that you're paying. However, it's no secret, the Samsung Galaxy S20 is the better performing device at the end of the day. I think everyone already knows that, and between both, and really if you're going to do anything with both of them, they're going to be fine. But the S20 is going to give you not only better performance, but I think better longevity too. One thing that I've seen is that a lot of Android phones, they slow down a lot over time, including all my Samsung Galaxy phones. I own the Galaxy S10 since day one, and it's slowed down quite a bit, especially now. And I didn't even realize it until I was comparing it to all my other phones that I usually compared it to, and I was like, oh my god, this one actually kind of did slow down a little bit. So these phones will probably end up seeing more slowdown too. Maybe the A50's already slowed down a little bit as well, but I didn't own it since day one, so I'm not really too sure. But between both, maybe the S20 will go down, but I'm pretty sure it's safe to say the Samsung Galaxy S20 is going to be the better performing device right now than the Samsung Galaxy A50. Now hitting on the cameras, they both have triple camera setups. Like I said, the Samsung Galaxy A50 has a 25 megapixel wide angle lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and a 5 megapixel depth lens, while the Samsung Galaxy S20 has a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and between both they do a very good job at photos. Obviously the S20 has the better capabilities, it has a better camera overall. You're able to not only shoot 4K at 60 frames on the S20, where you cannot do that on the A50, you can only do 1080p, but you have the ability of shooting 8K videos on the Samsung Galaxy S20, which is a pretty big upgrade coming from the A50, and that's a huge thing that you have to consider. So that camera on the S20 automatically wins, there's no question about it. On the front, 10 megapixels on the Samsung Galaxy S20 and 25 megapixels on the A50, and it's funny because you have a higher megapixel count on the A50, but the S20 actually is a better camera. You can do 4K at 60 frames on the S20, where you cannot do that on the A50, so between both, S20 definitely has a better camera. Now ending it off with the battery life, they both have 4,000 mAh batteries, and this is where things get a little weird. I will probably say that the A50 might have the better battery life for sure, but because the Samsung Galaxy S20 has the capability of doing reverse wireless charging, that kind of of adds into the battery features and just the battery experience overall. So I kind of want to say that the S20 has a better battery and battery features overall, even though the A50 might have the better battery life. That is one confusing thing. I know a lot of you guys still don't understand it, but it's just one extra feature that the battery includes. So you have the battery life, but you also have battery features, and the reverse wireless charging is a really cool battery feature that a lot of people will probably end up using. So I will probably side with the A50 having better battery life, but the S20 having overall better battery features at the end of the day. Now, to kind of sum up the video and to answer the comparison, should you pick up the S20? Should you save money with the A50? Yada yada yada. Obviously, if you have all the money in the world, get the S20. It's the much better phone. You're getting a much better device, much better screens, much better everything across the board. Really, the only thing the A50 has going for it might be the better battery life just by a little bit, but other than that, S20 is definitely the better phone. What I will tell you though is that you don't have to choose one or the other. Like I said before, the Samsung Galaxy S10 is still a tremendous phone at the end of the day. It's brought a lot to the table, and it's still getting another version of software on top of that. So I'll definitely recommend you, if you have the capability, get the Samsung Galaxy S10. I think those are less than $500 on Amazon right now. So I'll link these phones, like I said before, in the description below for the cheapest prices that I'll find. You can get them from there, like I said. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those things are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.